watching.
Alright, everybody, welcome to episode 19 of the Ashes of Creation Community Podcast. As always, I'm your host, the Big Cheek Giant, and today's community members are, first up, Deathfire. Deathfire, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. Excited to be here.
And we actually planned for DA to be here, but DA actually couldn't make it because of real life stuff. So one of his guild members, Araga, is gonna jump in for him. How you doing, sir?
Doing great.
Alright. Everybody who's watching, hope you're all doing okay and wonderful, and let's get right into it. So, the first topic of today is something that a lot of people had an issue with when it first was shown at PAX and when we actually first saw the whole thing, which is the combat combo bar, or the combat bar. A while back, I had people in this podcast that were at PAX and played the combat bar, and actually were working for Intrepid at that time, you know, helping people through the PvP stuff and the PvE stuff. So, what I want to know now from you two, and Deathfire, you're gonna go first. What was your opinion on the combat bar, and if you could replace the combat bar, because a lot of people did not like it. I don't know, like I didn't think it was that bad personally, but if you would have to replace it, with what would you replace it?
Just like you, I don't personally have too much of an issue with the combat bar. I can see it going like terribly wrong. It's really easy to mess up something like that. But to replace it, there's a variety of things they can replace it with. I mean, definitely something that's just a bit more subtle, I think would be a lot more beneficial to them.
Okay. What do you mean by more subtle? Because right now, from what we saw in the Ashes Zero streams, it's pretty much just Q pressing.
I'm trying to word this properly, I'm sorry. Basically subtle as in not something to where it's always like it's the primary focus of your group. You know, it would be more of like an event that happens when like multiple abilities coincide together and it just automatically happens. It's not something that you're going to be trying to execute constantly, but when it does execute, then it executes in a big way. Okay.
So right now, like I just said, it's mostly just Q pressing. If you could put in any sort of mechanic or system to replace it, like what would you personally put in?
Something similar to ESOs, but a lot better executed.
All right.
As I said, it shouldn't be the primary focus of every single combat you get into. Like, okay, me and my buddy are here. Let's do this. I'll use this ability now. You use this ability now. Boom. It should be something that's a bit more accidental between like 3, 4, or 5 combatants, including your opponent. So say like your opponent puts down puts up a wall of fire, and then you and an ally or a teammate or even another combatant shoot something at it, and then all of a sudden all 3 of those abilities combine at once, and it creates like a supernova in the middle or a black hole or something in the middle.
Okay.
Something completely on accident, not planned at all.
Okay, I gotcha. Araga, what do you think? What do you think about the combat bar? And same question, if you could replace it, what would you replace it with?
So my first interaction with the combat bar was actually at the PAX West in 2017, I believe. So I had a chance to actually play with it hands-on. I definitely saw the issue of it being distracting in combat, both in a PvE and PvE sense. That being said, I kind of like the concept in and of its own, right? What I would probably do is keep something similar, or even maybe take a page out of games like Black Desert Online, and have it be that there's some sort of combination of keys that actually trigger the combo. So if you're standing still and you hit your first Q, then maybe to continue the combo, you've got to travel in a direction, side to side, forward, whatever it is, and that combination of movement plus Q triggers the next step.
Okay.
Doing something like that where it makes the combat system more dynamic. You still have the Q presses, but then it becomes more of a sort of rhythmic dance as your character moves around. Most MMOs at this point anyways have a lot of movement mechanics in them as is, whether it's PvP or PvE. And the only real issue I see is where if you have to have some sort of movement and you're forced to like backpedal or something and you're in PvP, you might lose the momentum and lose your target. But beyond that, I think you can probably get around that and have combo key presses that are going to end up yielding that dynamic sort of play, so it's almost like a rhythm game in combat.
Okay, I gotcha. I can see that. I mean, the thing, I guess they are trying to like make it more reactive because we know it's tab targeting, and I get that. And I do also like the whole like combo scenario, and I also get that it is quite distracting from what I saw. And NDA cannot talk about it because NDA. But I think having something like that in the game is gonna be I think it's gonna be hard for them to put something else in there, to be honest. Right now they have a placeholder where you just press Q, and I thought maybe one thing they could do is give like visual cues to when you can do something. Doesn't have to be like a combat bar, just like visual cues.
I've thought about that as well, and the visual cues on their own, they would not be all that dissimilar from having a combo bar itself.
Yeah.
You're still going to be watching for some variable size, whether it's a little phoenix on the right hand side of your character, or your hands flash, or you get an aura of magic or energy around you. You're still going to basically be distracted by those visual triggers, and without having something more dynamic or more user side, it's just going to be that distraction party all over again.
There's also going to be issues with those on lower end PCs playing at lower graphics. They won't be able to catch cues as easily as somebody playing on like max graphics. So it would create an imbalance.
Also with ping, any sort of ping issue or latency, you're going to have an opportunity to miss those cues. It seems like a wiser option to put it on the user side.
Okay.
So that they don't risk being a detriment due to poor connection or poor setup.
Get that? Now I see the issue in that. It's gonna be tricky for them. I think that's probably gonna be one of the hardest things. They actually have to adjust. At least we know that they're listening to the community. I mean, like the day they showed that combat bar, I mean, the feedback, they took right upon that feedback. Like they took it out, and they're currently still looking into it. So I think right now we should just wait and see, because it's gonna be really interesting to see what they come up with. All right, anything?
Definitely.
You got anything else to add? Any one of you? Nothing?
To that, I kind of agree and disagree with Raga's statement about having combos, like just keyboard combos. My disagreement with it is I kind of don't want to be playing Street Fighter in Ashes. Like in Black Desert, some classes, like their combos can get pretty ridiculous. And you can still, quick cast some things, but it's a lot more effective to just sit there and use combos. But the problem is, like, I don't want to be a certain class and then I'm relying on a fighting game technique compared to MMO technique and tactics.
Yeah, I get that. Well, let's jump to the next topic, because we got a couple of them tonight. Next one up is crafting. We know close to nothing about crafting. So, well, it's kind of true. We know like small bits and pieces, but we don't know like a lot. So what I would like to talk about is what sort of crafting system did you like in other MMORPGs, and what would you like to see in Ashes of Creation? For example, I personally, the more in-depth, the more harder the crafting system is. For example, I talked about this on another podcast. I want shipbuilding to be a thing that takes weeks to build a ship, where you have to decide what wood are you going to take, what materials are you going to take, because all those things are going to pretty much affect the end result of your ship. That's like what I want to see, but I want to know now from you two, and Araga, you're going to go first. What do you want to see when it comes to crafting? Like, what is like your perfect vision of when it comes to crafting in Ashes of Creation?
Sure. So, I am an advisor to my guild Envious. DA was supposed to be on here with us. My main focus is trade, economics, and crafting. So this is definitely my wheelhouse in what we're planning and how we're planning to approach the game. What I would like to see is I would actually like to see a bit of a two-tier system when it comes to crafting. Because of how Ashes is aiming to present their economic and item system, and how almost everything is supposed to be designed and crafted by players, what I'd like to see is the ability to do some sort of like mass crafting, where it's very similar to many other games, World of Warcraft, BDO, where you basically just hit the button in a window and it mass spams a whole bunch of swords or a whole bunch of pieces of armor. They're all very generic, they're all within the parameters of whatever items you're using. But then on the flip side, I think it'd be very interesting if instead you wanted to create singular better items. They don't have to be dramatically better, they don't have to be legendary, but it's the difference between creating, you know, a green and a blue, or a green and a purple. And the way that proceeds is you basically go through various stations when crafting. So if you're crafting a sword per se, you start at the forge, working the bellows and whatnot. Then you move to the blacksmith and you have to hammer it out. In each of these situations, maybe there's some sort of mini games. So maybe it's a matched puzzle where you're literally having to match a couple of cards as you're trying to remember where things are. And these little mini games are sort of breaking up the monotony of crafting and making it feel like there's a little bit of skill rather than just pure RNG in pressing craft and seeing, well, did I roll that double op % and pop an epic, or is it just going to be another gray trash item?
All right.
And this lets people basically invest actual time, because doing this, you know, extended crafting process may mean that it takes you 10, 15, half an hour, maybe even an hour to create the sword as you're going through various stations, you know, prepping ore, because maybe, you know, you don't have to maybe you have to change the ore from ore to ingots, and that has to go through its same sort of special craft process. So you have this handoff of materials both between various trade personalities and guilds, and at the end you get, you know, a blue or purple quality item. But if you just need to spam some items because you need to arm some guards or throw some stuff on the market, some people can't afford, you know, an hour per weapon for what they have economically. So they're like, well, I'm going to use this white or gray sword because that's what I really need to use. It's not worse, it's just not top of the line. And I think that would actually create an interesting dynamic between how the crafting system delineates who's a known crafter. So someone says, yeah, so-and-so crafted this sword. Oh, that guy. I know that guy did great on those things. Or it's like, yeah, we bought 1,000 swords because we needed to arm up for the upcoming siege, and now our guards actually have weapons.
Okay, no, I get what you're saying. Deathfire, what's your opinion on crafting? How do you want crafting to work out?
Well, building off of Raga's statement, I definitely would like having like small mini games and taking an hour to craft a sword myself. However, I won't always have an hour like what he was just saying. So I would like to be able to pawn that off to my NPCs. And the difference I would like to see in that is that when I'm crafting it myself, there's a better chance that I personally can make it a higher quality crafted item compared to my NPC, which there's a lower chance of it being as high quality. But going through the whole process from station to station, I love that concept, actually. There was a game I actually used to work on for Stained Glass Llama, and they mimicked a lot of qualities that was in Star Wars Galaxies. So everything relied on the quality of your material, being able to combine different materials in the right places. So you didn't have to just use specifically aluminum. You can use any alloy. And depending on the alloy and the quality of the alloy, contributed to how well the crafted item would come out.
Okay. What do you guys think about actually people being able to create their own recipes within the game by like accident? Let's say you got a blacksmith, you're a blacksmith specialist, and all your crafting stuff is going into blacksmithing. And by accident, you actually create, let's say, I don't know, legendary, but an epic, I don't know, broadsword. And it got some special stats, it got a special skill, and this one recipe is unique to yourself, unless somebody else by accident creates the same recipe while just like trying around with different materials for blacksmithing. What do you guys think of that?
So, I'm not particularly fond of that idea, and the reasons why are that, first off, it relies on RNG, and a lot of the times it relies on doing something wrong to create something. And the game itself, if it has that sort of simplistic crafting focus of just click the buttons, it would be odd to intentionally create a situation where you could create something wrong.
Okay.
All with the hope that somebody messes up the process and strikes lucky, at which point anyone that is doing that and is popular in streams, that's now known, or if they follow the same track that most people in the community have done and been pretty open and sharing with information, they're like, hey, I found the legendary broadsword, here's the recipe, and it goes up on a wiki. So it no longer becomes a special thing, so it's RNG combined with messing up / failure, combined with it's not exclusive. I really am not attached to that idea in any way, shape, or form.
I know, I get what you're saying. I get that. No, that makes sense. That's why. What do you think about recipes by accident or RNG or anyway?
I actually like the concept of happy little accidents. However, I do agree on the point to where if the crafting system is going to be that simplistic, then it shouldn't be anything like that. But it would be pretty cool that you're crafting a broadsword, right? But because you messed up on the part of the blade that would just have it completely straight and you made it curved instead, and you end up getting a scimitar out of it just because you accidentally messed up. But you messed up on something that was already pretty well done, so you just got a different result compared to it being just trash. So you might have not gotten the epic broadsword, but you ended up with an epic scimitar in a special way.
Actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in real quick.
Right.
Bridging off that idea a little bit. So, if we come back to the original idea of the crafting stations of the mini games, if during those mini games you do exceptionally well, you demonstrate, objective skill, then in that situation, what you have is you get that better upgrade version. So you get that longsword that turns to a scimitar, or axe that turns to a great axe or battle axe. And in that situation, you're rewarding a player for actively doing something as opposed to simply pressing a button, as opposed to simple RNG.
Yeah.
And if you want to recreate that, it's either a matter of reflecting that same skill you had originally, or finding whatever pattern was in that, little minigame rhythm, like, some DDR finger key sort of thing you're doing. Or it's a match 16 where, they have 16 icons hidden. You've got to flip them over, match them, and it's a matter of getting, enough. You have to complete it in enough time and with as few mismatches as possible. So, in that situation, if you get those thresholds, then that's where you get the hidden upgrade bumps where the game actually says, hey, longsword goes to a scimitar. And in those situations, even if you crack the code and post it, a player still has to have the skill to meet those requirements to upgrade it, as opposed to just saying, yeah, you have to, get a less than 5 mismatches, and you have to complete it in 1 minute before, to get that upgrade threshold.
Which actually just improves the name of whichever popular blacksmith that is, because if a blacksmith can consistently do that and they're doing it high quality, then whenever you see their name on any weapon or equipment, you already know that hey, this is special, this is something great, and I want it.
Because
exactly.
Steven said in one of his live streams, and actually that is one of the reasons I actually brought this up tonight again, is that if you become a specialist in any crafting, gathering, or processing skill, if you just focus on that one trade, you will probably be known on the server. So then I automatically started thinking, how will I be known on the server? Because I'm not gonna be the only guy who's gonna focus on blacksmithing. So that's how I came up with this idea. But what you just pretty much explained, Araga, I actually really do like this idea, because it combines like a lot of, I think, good elements from other games, and especially the part of the mini game. I think that would be a really good way to go.
But I think it is important that even if that minigame sort of idea gets in there, there should be a secondary option where you can basically produce common quality of the same item, because otherwise we're going to have a starved economy. Because we can't have everyone be a master blacksmith, but it is important to have common quality weapons and mastercraft weapons.
That was my suggestion of the NPCs doing it for you was leading to.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just a matter of... I also at one point played Star Wars Galaxies, so I'm very familiar with that sort of system and setup. But yeah, having something where you can throw like a blueprint, like you take Timecraft a blueprint, throw it to a handful of NPCs, and they get to work churning out X number of swords over X amount of time. You come back to the hopper and pick up however many swords from NPC crafted blacksmiths, and bam, you throw them up on the market. I think that combined with also some of the resource quality mechanics that were in Star Wars Galaxies would be amazing.
Well, I guess we just have to wait and see, because I think within the next couple months, I think they're gonna at least give us some like pointers to how crafting is going to work. So let's jump to the next topic. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I actually have one more thing for crafting.
Go for it.
I'm actually really hoping that when it comes to crafting, that they take some of the suggestions given by the community and decide to combo augment just like the normal class system. Like one suggestion I vocally spoken over on the Discord was that I would really like to see a combination of cooking and alchemy to come up with brewing, so I can make booze for my tavern and supply the tavern myself with my own crafting.
I kind of like that idea, to take the whole system for the classes and put it into the crafting as well. That would be interesting to see.
It just opens up a whole another window for all the players to enjoy.
Right, let's jump to the next topic. One thing you could create in Ashes of Creation, what would it be? Who wants to take this one first? If you could create one thing within Ashes of Creation, if it's an item, a quest, a boss, an event, a title, Deathwire, what would you create within Ashes of Creation?
An item that lets me turn into a dragon.
So, like the legendary staff from the Fireland raid in World of Warcraft. Which...
Kind of, yeah.
Kinda. Could you fly like the kings of the nodes?
I would like that, personally. I would understand if that wouldn't be like something implemented.
Alright.
But at least gliding, something.
Okay, so you would like to transform into a dragon. What about you, Araga? If you could create one thing...
What I would like to see is scavenger quests / treasure maps. I'm sure that many of us, in fact many of the audience, have played Skyrim, and at some point have come across one of those bloody treasure maps, where it is a soft etching of some nearby scenery, and you basically have to utilize the visual aesthetics of the surroundings and this little sketching to figure out exactly where you need to go to get to a treasure chest. And having a series of these, maybe in some sort of journal, which helps guide you through some of the more specifically scenic aspects of Ashes, is kind of like a visual tour, implanted by the devs of, hey, this might be a really cool place to go check out, and when you get there, there's some sort of small trinket or item, or maybe there's a buff by going there, and when you complete all of them, it triggers some sort of interesting quest. So it's a sort of opt-in, choose-your-own-adventure approach, and maybe it has some sort of lore throwback. So it's from before when everyone left Vera. It's an ancient tome or journal left by some of the predecessors.
Okay.
Like, that would be a really interesting way to sort of take the players around so that they get an opportunity to see all of the various places. It would definitely itch the needs of explorers and achievers, and would just be overall a really engaging experience, I think.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I would love to actually see some ancient equipment along with getting additional lore.
I mean,
and maybe that's a way that in some of the places there's a recipe or something, and so you, even if you're not a crafter, you can take that back to your guild, or you can sell it, or maybe
Like
there is. Go ahead.
I was about to say like a recipe for like a mithril axe or something.
Exactly. And it could take you everywhere from the highest peaks down into the underground, and it's all a matter of, hey, does this mountain range look like the one I have on my map? Yeah, it kind of does. All right, once I get there a little closer, they've sketched that up on that ridge. There's a waterfall. I should go there. Oh, at the waterfall, this waterfall with a cool pool is amazing. Oh, behind that rock near the, oh my god, surprise, there's something behind the waterfall, because that's not cliche. But I mean, maybe they don't have to go that far, but in general creates a dynamic sort of visual adventure.
No, I get that. I mean, right now I'm playing a lot of Sea of Thieves any chance I get, and I kind of see, like, I do like to explore. Like, honestly, I rather just honestly, like, once in a while I just like to lay back and just explore the world. And if I actually could do something like that within Ashes of Creation, where I just have a map where it's like a slight description of where I have to go, I like that idea. I really do, because that's something I think I personally, a lot of other people would enjoy. The question that I have now is, for example, if you find one of these maps and it tells you to go to, I don't know, point A, and if you're at point A, you get the chance to, dig up a treasure or whatever. Would you only be able to dig up the treasure if you got the map, or could you dig up the treasure by accident?
I think you should be required to have the journal.
I gotcha.
Because otherwise it's just something that's revealed to you by a wiki.
Yeah,
so
gotcha.
if you wanted, if you chose to, you could cheapen your experience and go to a wiki and say, all right, have you picked up the ancient journal? Yes? All right. Go over to Mount Kokomo, go up to the ridge on the on the north side, and near the waterfall pool, there's a large rock on the right-hand side. Check behind that, dig. Like, you could do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's definitely how an achiever might approach it, as opposed to an explorer. That specifically being that I'm referring to Bartle's taxonomy of playable characters. And I don't have an issue with that. People are choosing how they want to engage with that story. But having it where you can just go to the wiki anyways and say, alright, go to that same location and dig, you're really sort of not even engaging with the story itself. There should be some sort of touch to the story. Consider the book an attunement for that quest.
Okay. Yeah, go
sorry,
for it.
Just building off of that. I actually would like to see all of those dig sites or the ancient treasures as just unique one-offs that, like, if they do want to put more in the world, that they would have to like do like a patch or an update. So like every 1 month or 3 months, they will add more of those items to the world. But having each one unique would be really interesting.
I would counter that instead of having them, like, I agree that they should definitely be unique, but if they wanted to moderate so that you don't have, 4,000 of the ancient mithril recipes, they just sort of slow down the progression of how people get that journal. Maybe it comes off an ancient Vec that you find crazed underground, who's held on to it because it's a family treasure. Can't read the damn thing, but holds on to it. And it's sort of a world, or it's dropped from that dungeon or that raid, and you can decide, all right, well, Jim's been doing real great, so he's going to spend some of his DKP on this, or we're going to give it to, Melissa because she is super down for doing these sorts of things, and she's agreed to give over the recipes to the guild to do with whatever we want. I think that would be a way to keep the rarity and the, interest of those discoveries without sort of cheapening them.
I like that idea. I kind of want that in the game now. I know the guys at Intrepid, they actually watch this podcast, so I want to make a formal request. The thing that Araga just described, I want that in the game. Please make it so, please. Alright.
That and brewing.
Exactly, that and brewing. Alright, next topic. Because we're at the halfway mark, so next topic for tonight is something you don't want. So the complete opposite of what we just talked about, and I'm gonna start with this. Something I do not want in Ashes of Creation is easy raids. Easy, large-scale PvE content. In the past, I mostly play MMORPGs for big-scale battles, PvP-wise, and big-scale PvE fights, boss fights. And I think I am one of the few remaining raiders that actually think this way. I enjoy myself when I have to fight one boss for, 4 weeks straight, wipe at him for 500 times till I finally kill him. I know in the past, other MMORPGs, I'm not gonna call any names, but everybody knows who I'm talking about, over short periods of time, they nerf bosses. They nerf the endgame content, or the large-scale endgame content PvE-wise, to makes a certain group of people happy. So I don't mind having raids in the game that are slightly easier, but I would really not want, I really don't want every raid in the game to be doable for everybody. I want
it to be an accomplishment.
Yeah, I want there to be like, I don't know what you get, a title, an item. I want there to be some large scale PvE fights where you literally filter out, the ones that are, they don't go in it full hearted. They just go in and be like, yeah, it's free loot. I want every raid, not every raid, but most, well, let's say half of the raids to be hard. I want them to be so hard that people will start crying. And I don't want every raid to be easy. What about you, Raga?
You want...
Alright, go ahead, Deathfire, you take this one. What do you want?
Oh, I was about to comment on yours, saying you want people to be envious of you for having to beat it.
Yes.
Oh man,
you want people to hate you.
Our guild? My god. Thank you.
Alright, Deathfire. Yes, pretty much. That's what I want, because yeah, and I don't want easy PvE content. I've been playing MMORPGs since EverQuest 1, and for way too long now, PvE content in most recent MMORPGs is rather a joke, at least in my opinion. Deathfire, what's something you don't want in the game?
I don't want like a server-wide looking for group finder, raid finder. I want people to be able to pull together. I don't want to fast travel to a raid or dungeon. I want 40 of us to travel to a complicated raid that we planned on doing, and then have the chance of like an unfortunate event coming and hitting us and derailing us from that, and then we have a whole different experience than what we were expecting. I want to be able to expect one raid and then get jumped by a bunch of players, or a giant worm coming out of the ground and eat half of us, and then we have to sit there and combat this thing now. Compared to just, oh, click button, I'm at the raid, run through.
Gotcha. Araga, what about you?
So, I want to touch base on both those ideas real quick. So, what I don't want is definitely either one of those in their pure form. So, on Deathfires, like, I like the idea of there being a sort of dynamic situation, but I don't like the idea of every time I go out to raid, there is a 50-50 or even like a 30% chance that we're just not going to make it, that we're going to get, messed over by some sort of roving band of players or giant worms, or we just get lost and can't find the dungeon entrance. Having that happen, every once in a while, every couple of weeks, if you're raiding 2 or 3 times a week, and it happens once out of, 20 times, all right, that's interesting. That's, a world that lives. But when you're like, let's roll the dice and see if we get a raid tonight, I don't have time for that. I've got a family, I've got kids, so I want to be able to play the game. And touching on what you said, BCG, I can definitely respect the idea of wanting challenging content. Nobody likes feeling like the game panders to them and basically gives them their reward. At the same time, I think it's important to note that the population is not comprised of people who are basically strapping, metal plates themselves, grabbing spears, and running out into, Mad Max Desert World to go fight their monsters. Like, the majority of players are not hardcore gnashing their teeth for objectively punishing content that will make you cry. And so you can do things like that, but you have to approach it, I think, in a more manageable process. You can have challenging content, but perhaps there's some sort of back-end system where if your group wipes X number of times, then the back-end system will automatically downgrade the opponents, so they lose 1% off their health or damage.
But wouldn't let me just interrupt right there, because wouldn't just raid groups just wipe on purpose?
Sure, they could, but they are choosing their own involvement in the content, so they could choose to wipe, but they're also then saying, hey, we are choosing to take this repair bill into our own hands. So now they're basically throwing money at it, and it's now another sort of metric in the game. They can choose, and you can have a thing where it says, at the beginning of every fight, good luck, fight number X, engage. So even if someone streams or tries to show, our guild's awesome, they're like, oh, well, they've wiped 1,200 times on this fight, so yeah, of course. And it doesn't have to go down every time, but, after, 10 wipes, lose 1%. So after 100 wipes, they're down 10% health and damage. That makes the fight more manageable. That means that a guild that commits to trying to defeat something has a legitimate chance over time that even if they don't have the best players, they can still progress with their content. That means that guilds that, you're a part of BCG that want to basically grind their face against stuff, can either A, be like, hey, we were awesome because we fought this guy and we downed him on trial 9. So they were at their top peak. So now guilds are competing to basically beat it within a certain number of wipes, as opposed to just being like, well, we're just going to throw battle after battle after battle until everyone can sort of like fudge their way through the mechanics. Because in WoW, I've definitely seen where guilds, especially when content just arrive, they'd be like, well, expect to wipe, 40 times tonight. We're just trying to learn the fight. That's a real lackluster way to approach that. Like, you can do that. It just doesn't seem interesting to me.
I mean,
and those two sort of schools of ideas allows both the hardcore and, while it is considered like a dirty word, the casual, to basically both approach the same content, and they can choose to do it in 2 different ways. Either A, try to beat the record and beat their chest, or B, they can just go die to that boss a whole bunch of times and auto down level the boss's mechanics at the expense of their gear and repair bills. So they're basically now creating an economic sink, which will require them to go get more gear. So it either is a drain on their guild itself, or it empowers another guild that focuses on crafting because they want to handle easier content. Okay. And maybe there's an option at the beginning of the fight where you can check a box that says, do not downgrade. So even after, 1,000 battles and 1,000 wipes, you can always face them at top quality just because that's what you want to do. Like, let people choose their own level of engagement. Don't force everyone to play to the 2% that wants to, wear GIMP masks and charge in butt naked.
Have it affect gear too, if you're gonna do it that way, though.
I mean,
For sure.
I get what you're saying, and I see the appeal of it, and I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it, but there needs to be an indicator. There needs to be two things. There needs to be an indicator how many tries you needed.
Sure.
There needs to be a reset of tries for each ID. So for each week, if you don't clear it within, I don't know, that 1 week, the debuff that you put on the boss, they reset. They don't stack up week after week.
I disagree.
Yeah, but then everybody can clear everything, and then we're back to World of
eventually.
Then we're back at World of Warcraft.
It's not back at World of Warcraft. You can always choose, like, again, have the click button. Don't degrade. So you can choose, hey, I want to play hardcore mode. Or better yet, maybe the general content shouldn't be what's gatekeeped by hardcore. Maybe there's a forbidden tower somewhere. And in it, you start from floor 1, or maybe you start from the first floor and it's, you go down into the ground. And every floor you go down, it gets harder and harder. So your challenging content comes from progressively scaling content that just goes down or up in this tower. I think that's something where people are then choosing their own level of engagement.
Yeah, I get you.
If you play to the 1 or 2%, the game's gonna die on its endgame content. Like, that's what some games have done in the past, and they've had to regrade because they lost subs or they lost players. You don't want to create a situation where the game poisons itself, also all in the cry of let's be hardcore.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. What you're saying, and I'm not saying you're wrong or that I'm right. Like, I'm speaking from like personal experience. Like, for example, because I already brought it up with World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft Naxxramas, the raid has only been completely cleared worldwide by 23 guilds. That's it. 23 guilds worldwide cleared that one raid. That raid, by far, for me personally, was like the best raid ever. I had more fun.
You're talking about original, right?
What?
You're talking about original, right?
The original Naxxramas that only got cleared by 23 guilds. And every raid afterwards, you had thousands on thousands of guilds clear the raids. And I'm always thinking back because I knew 2 people that were in one of the guilds that cleared it. I'm like, dude, they cleared freaking Naxxramas. They freaking bashed their heads against the wall for weeks on end to clear this goddamn raid. And that's like, it may be because I'm a fanboy of raiding, but that's sort of the thing that I want to be like, hey, I never cleared that raid, but that guy over there with the big sword, he cleared it. That guy is the man. So, yeah, but Araga, I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree with it. I guess it's just my own personal preferences. Let's jump right to the next topic, because we are lacking a little bit behind. Your Ashes feeling. By that I mean, well, I've been part of the community now for over a year. I've been doing this podcast now for almost a year, and right now, like, I want to know, combining everything, what we know, what we read in the forums, and what you get, like what we talk about on the Discord, and your personal opinion on how is the current status of Ashes of Creation. And Deathfire, you're gonna go first.
Current status of Ashes is really good, actually. I see a lot of progress with them. I'm speaking about this coming from development background. I've worked with several other companies before, so I have a pretty good understanding on like things that can go wrong, things that are going right within actual video game development. Ashes is pretty much well on the right track right now.
All right, Araga, what's your opinion?
So my feeling is very similar. I'm pleased with what I've seen so far, with the timelines that they've been setting forward. I definitely have eyes. I'm going to be very critical of the next 6 months, because the next 6 months are going to have some key milestones that I'm going to be curious to see how they're presenting. I think realistically, we as a community have been a bit spoiled by the amount of communication and contact we've had with the devs. So it feels cheap for me to say this, and I feel bad. But at the same time, there are definitely some elements of communication that I would like to see improved. So, missing weekly raffles, or, commenting on a podcast, this will be out by X date, and then not seeing or hearing anything when that date passes, or a week or two passes, or a month passes. In those situations, just to sort of, hey guys, we're still having trouble with X, Y, or Z, or we're working on developing some, extra content here. Hold your horses. Like, not even a hold your horses, just literally a ping or an update. Like, it takes 30 seconds, and throw it up in news in the Discord, and I'd be totally satisfied with that. I'm 100% fine with saying, hey, we're backed up, we're working on other stuff. I know we said we had this thing out by X date. Our bad. Like, I will never hold a dev to that. I'll be like, hey, you're trying to build the best game? I'll give you an extra couple of weeks. I'll give you an extra month, whatever. Like, I don't have an issue with that at all. But being in the dark, especially with the amount of communication and the ease at which devs sort of just jump in and sort of flirt with you in Discord, I feel like it's just real low-hanging fruit to play to that. And maybe it'll be better once they have a CM, community manager.
Yeah.
But until then, I think that it'd be really easy to just pop in and say something.
Yeah, gotcha. No, I completely agree on that part. I also have a slight background when it comes to game development, and I think right now, developing wise, we're in a really good spot. We don't know how exactly where we're on and how far ahead we are, but based on what they tell us, I have a good feeling. Based on what I saw in the Alpha Zero stream, I have a good feeling. Only thing that I'm a little bit worried about, and I brought this up I think in the past as well, is that we're not the small community we were a year ago. Like, we're freaking huge now, and we've been without a CM now for too long, and that's the only thing that worries me a little bit, that we still do not have a full functioning CM. We have awesome moderators, they do a great job in my opinion, but now would be the point, or at least in the near future, for a CM to step in and take charge, because reasons.
Sure. I think the game's going well, objectively. Like, from, I think it was last night, March 2nd, I saw someone ask Steven about, or they made a comment, something to the effect of, I like the pace that the game's been going at, and Steven's response was simply best pace. That gives me a lot of confidence. That tells me, it implies that the game itself is likely on schedule, or even ahead of schedule for what they've planned.
Yeah.
And that sounds like an earlier Ashes for me, and I'm down for that.
Hell yeah. Alright, so, because we only got like a couple more minutes left, on this podcast, we talk about like everything Ashes related, but it's a podcast for the community members, to shine. And once in a while, I jump into the role of the bad guy to, dampen the imagination of some people, and to actually bring people back to reality, because some people sometimes like to, imagine that this game is gonna be a freaking unicorn with wings that shits rainbows. So this...
Only if you're king.
Only when I'm king, definitely. So now the last topic is actually going to be something that we have not ever talked about before, but something that I want to talk about, especially because Deathfire, you like you said, you have experience when it comes to game development. The last topic is what could go wrong, and by that I mean we've seen what other MMORPGs did in the past that failed. And we know why they failed. So, in your personal opinion, what is one thing that Ashes of Creation and Intrepid Studio could do wrong that would hurt the game in a major way? Deathfire, you go first.
Listening to the community too much. this was the overall downfall for Firefall, one of the projects that I did work on. Leadership just listened to every single thing from the community, and because of that, there was 5 different iterations of how the game worked within a year. Like they had things from locked PvP loadouts to everything from PvE carrying over into PvP, changing just all the changes and stuff. Basically killed off the community of the game, and it killed off the game itself. So for Ashes to really succeed, they need to listen to the community, but not necessarily adhere to everything that the community says.
Okay. Raga, what do you think could go wrong?
So I feel bad, but like I kind of want to spit on this question.
Go for it.
I really don't like the negativity of the question itself. I've worked with a number of developers in video game scenes and other game scenes like live action role plays and other, RPG books. And really what I've seen a lot of the time is creative individuals, artists, do a great job and invest a lot of their selves into the project. And the what could go wrong or what's wrong with the project has a real visible effect on the work they produce. And so I would hazard to say that this is not a question that I really want to juggle with. Okay. I want to be supportive to the devs and to the project itself in an empirical, objective way. And so what that means is I don't want to focus on what could go wrong. I want to focus on, if there are flaws, how do we improve them? How do we communicate with the community? How do we resolve them, as opposed to just saying, I don't like the combo bar, I don't like how this works. I want creative solutions that support rather than negging and worrying about, what if we don't have subs, or what if we just mess up the crafting system? Like that's just not what I want. I don't want to go in that direction. I want to be productive.
I mean, being productive also means to like generalize where other games went wrong. For example, like one thing that I think could go wrong personally is the same thing Wildstar did. Wildstar locked their raiding content behind a pre-quest that was really, really hard. Like locked people straight out of raiding. And as a raider,
you liked hard content.
Yeah, I do. I personally do. Dude, honestly, I love that quest. But sadly to say, a lot of the people that I play with, they don't share the same mindset as me. And my philosophy is make it available for everybody. Make it available for everybody. Let everybody do every type of content. But that doesn't mean they have to beat it. So that's like one of the things that I say that there shouldn't be any like skill-based walls for people to enter content. Make it accessible. Don't make it too easy. But definitely don't make it so everybody can beat it. Alright, so that was a good answer, Raga. I'm not like I'm saying that was a really good answer. I really appreciate that one. That's all the topics for tonight. So now is my favorite part. Now you two can plug yourself and promote yourself as much as you want, while the chat has a chance to ask a question if anybody wants to ask a question. If not, yeah, that would be it. So how about Raga? You go first, promote your guild, yourself, your stream, your Twitch channel, your Twitter channel, your dog, your cat, your goldfish, whatever you have. Go for it.
Sure. So I'm Raga. I'm an advisor to the Guildmaster of Envious. We're an NA guild with people all around the time zones, number of EU members. You can contact and find us at envious.net or contact DA in the Discord, or myself. I'm an advisor to specifically trade, economics, and crafting, and we look forward to hearing from everyone.
Nice. Deathfire, your turn.
Well, I'm going to be a little bit less professional. But I'm Deathfire. I'm repping Mutiny. Be sure to check us out on Discord if you're interested in joining us. We have a recruitment page up on the forums. Also, just message Zombie and the Discord. And yeah.
All right, nice.
I think that pineapple pizza is atrocious, and
I agree.
You can eat it because if you like it, I don't have an issue with you choosing to eat your own pizza. I just don't want it on mine.
Yeah,
America.
Yeah, like I don't think it has something to do with America. As I'm currently living in Europe, I can agree on pineapple does not belong on a freaking pizza. Period.
I will say that pie belongs on pizza because pie should go on everything.
I haven't had a good slice of pie in years. They have good pie. They have good pie in the UK, but I'm too lazy to move, drive over there.
That's a nod to you out there, pie god somewhere.
Pie god. All right. So yeah. Araga, Deathfire. Thanks for joining me today. I actually had a lot of fun, despite being sick. Thanks everybody for watching, and we will definitely see each other on the Discord, right?
Yep.
For sure.
All right, everybody. Take care.